Welcome to Frequency Matters, the RF and microwave update. I'm Pat Hindle, and I'm here with my co-host Gary Lerude. We're shooting live from the EDI CON 2016 show in Boston, and we're geeking out now with our glasses.
Right.
We have these special glasses for Geekapalooza that's happening Wednesday afternoon. It's a networking event for engineers in the area. We have about 150 companies here, so we've had a great turnout over the couple of days. We thought we'd highlight a few things that we saw at the show that were interesting. On my list, I had Ardent Concepts. They had a quick link coaxial connector. This can replace SMA and SMP connectors where you have to have the receptacle soldered to the board. Now you can just click in this connector, and all you need are 2 through holes drilled in the board along with a gold landing pad. So it does away with the whole connector and soldering. It's a much lower cost and still performs very well. So it's a very interesting concept to see how that goes in replacing some of the twist-on connectors. And I also was in a talk with BAE Systems, who was very big in participation here. And they had a new MHEMP process that they've been working on for many years for LNAs. And they were able to achieve over a huge broad frequency band, 60 to 90 gigahertz, less than 2 dB noise figure, and almost 25 dB gain over the entire band, which is amazing performance.
Yeah, I saw that paper. It was quite impressive. I didn't realize that BAE Systems had done all that work.
Yeah, and they worked with Militech. So Militech does a lot of high frequency millimeter wave work.
Right.
They packaged up the devices and made the measurements because it's really difficult to measure that type of performance on wafer. So they had to package up with Militech. So what did you see on your side?
So a couple things. There was a very interesting paper by Earl McCoon, who is a consultant and did a kind of a tutorial paper on stuff that we learned in school about the efficiency of power amplifiers. But he overlaid that a discussion of the different efficiency limitations that are set by the modulation scheme you choose. So he compared GSM, 3G, 4G, and how those choices of modulation systems actually affect the efficiency you can get out of the whole system. And the point of his talk, I think, was that as we're in this process of trying to define the standard for 5G, on the one hand, there's a lot of discussion about how do you maximize the efficiency because power consumption is a key concern. But on the other hand, we have to be very careful of what modulation scheme we pick to make sure that we try to optimize for efficiency as well as the other factors like the efficiency of the bits per hertz. So that was a very interesting paper. The other one that I enjoyed was actually I facilitated the connected car panel. We had a great turnout there. We had 3 representatives from Anritsu from a test perspective and Analog Devices and NXP from the semiconductor perspective. Got some very insightful comments, I thought, about what these guys are seeing as they're engaging with companies that are developing ADAS and autonomous driving systems. So it was great. We all agreed at the end of the session we ought to do it again next year to do an update because so many things are happening so quickly.
Yeah, that's definitely a hot topic. We had the 5G millimeter wave panel too. So those are topics that have a lot of legs still left in them, a lot of things to be determined.
Yeah, the 5G panel you hosted had a great attendance as well.
So one of the overriding themes, I think, in this event that we've seen is integration. There's really, RF has become, smart enough now, and they're using a lot of digital platforms to really integrate a lot of technologies and be able to smartly integrate for lower costs and more functionality. And where is the trade-off between integration and cost? And so we caught up with a few people at the show, and one of them was Higham from Strategy Analytics. So he's going to give us a little bit of insight in what he saw at this event. So Eric, great to see you at the event. What are some of your impressions in walking around and visiting some of the exhibitors and sessions?
Oh, Pat, hi. It's good to see you again. The test and measurement guys were well represented here, both on the trade show floor as well as in the presentations. And they've got 5G dialed in for sure. And it makes sense because they're the tip of the spear, if you will. You can't, even though 5G is a little bit not nailed down just yet, you can't produce what you can't test. So those guys are front and center in understanding the 5G requirements and then making test equipment that will meet the needs of that. Also, integration was a prevalent theme in what I saw. I saw a paper from BAE Systems where they have developed what they call an RF FPGA, and it's under contract from DARPA. And so they put together 4 transceiver baseband tiles, 2 frequency generation tiles, and then 4 RF microwave tiles. They claim, and then with a switch fabric that connects everything, they claim they can get 1,000 different connections into that. And so everything is tunable, filters and switched halves, and they claim they can go from 500 megahertz to 20 gigahertz with this fabric that they have, and they're looking at this being really a reconfigurable RF. We talk about software-defined radios, and that's mainly in the transceiver and lower section, but now these guys are looking at being able to do that with the RF. So it's not a commercial part right now, DARPA funded as I mentioned, but it's being done on 130 nanometer SiGe by CMOS on SOI. So maybe it's a higher end commercial part, or maybe it's a military part at some point. So I thought that was interesting. Analog Devices is looking at having the ability now to do the full block diagram. But interestingly, they're also rolling in things like controllers and gyros. So in their view, they can take a transceiver for a radar on a ship where that radar may be rolling with the waves, and with the gyros and with the controllers, they can adjust that radar. So in addition to doing the RF and the baseband that we think of them at, they think they can bring different capabilities into it. And then finally, what I found really interesting is we think of switches as kind of old school, but I saw some pretty interesting developments with SOI switches handling high power for base station applications, fast switching, so lots of development and lots of information with silicon-based switches these days. And lastly, I want to congratulate you and the team for what is a great show, both from a technical standpoint and the show floor. So kudos to everyone involved.
Thank you very much.
So that's the story from EDI CON USA, our first year in Boston. We want to thank you for, particularly if you joined us here at the show. Also thank you for watching, and we want to thank our sponsor, Mini Circuits, for making this program possible. You can find out about their products at their website, minicircuits.com. Until next time, take care.